What's up, everyone? Good morning again. It's your host, Carlos Ponce here. This is episode 13 of season 2 of Advancio Talks. And we are live today with a great guest. We got Goktug Phoenix with us today. And I'm going to let him introduce himself in a minute. Thank you, Phoenix, for being with us on the show. Um, and for the rest of you, if you are just discovering us, welcome to the show. But if you have been here since the very beginning, well, you know what we are about. So here's a quick rundown. Advancio Talks is where we sit down with the people actually building the future of business and technology. Not just talking about it, but doing it. CTOs, founders, the folks making decisions that matter. So whether you're drinking coffee or commuting or just curious about what's actually happening in technology, stick around. Phoenix has got stories and insights you will not find or hear anywhere else. So, that being said, Phoenix, it's a great pleasure and an honor to have you as a guest. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Carlos. Thank you for inviting me to the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I look forward to this conversation so much. So, okay, before we get into the nitty gritty of today's topic and all that, of course, you are the guest, you're the star. Let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about you. Anything you want to say about yourself, your background, your journey, your story, how you ended up here. Who
Sure,
is Phoenix?
sure. I was, since I was a kid, I was into computers.
Hmm.
And I was even fixing everyone's computer in my neighborhood and everyone's digital things. So I always wanted to do a cool business, like similar to like being an astronaut as a kid or, being a hacker
Hmm.
or things that are related to computers always got my attention. I grew up playing chess, reading books. So I was a geek kid when I was younger. So I get into computers. I was doing joking viruses with bash scripts when I was like 12 years old. And so I think I started uh, hacking things in a young age. I did
Hmm.
my coding stuff, like I was writing code in JavaScript, in C++. I started learning these languages when I was 11 or 12. And I was downloading video games or music from the internet and selling in the school. So I started my first business when I was like 12-year-old kid. And since then, I'm into computers. I did my first official work when I was 18, and I started as a developer, software developer, and then I slowly get specialized in cybersecurity.
Excellent. So, folks, by the way, before we go any further, you saw any glitch like at the beginning of the conversation, because it's a live stream, and the interesting part of doing things live, sometimes it says there are unexpected glitches. We had a glitch like in the format of the show. It was my bad. I'm sorry. I apologize. But folks say, well, what's life without surprises? Unpredictability is sometimes makes life more fun. But if you're watching, we'll make sure that we edit those out. Don't worry about it. And I apologize, Phoenix, for the little glitch that we had there at the beginning. We'll leave it out.
No
But
worries.
going back to you, Phoenix, I understand that you are the CEO of a company called Blacktrace. So why don't you tell us on the viewers a little bit about Blacktrace? What is your value proposition? What problem you solve? Anything you want to say about the company?
Sure. We are specializing in offensive cybersecurity, and we provide red teaming and penetration testing services, as well as purple teaming sometimes, to corporations. That includes industrial pen testing and also corporate pen testing in enterprise systems. And the value we provide is, well, early detection into security faults, and as well as there's a thing that many enterprise businesses are doing. Like some businesses think being compliant means being secure, and
Mm-hmm.
we also test their compliance works. Like if they have special work they did for compliance, we also test those. But we also prove that compliance is not security. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a list of checklists. And so we find vulnerabilities, the common ones, also unimaginable ones. So I think that brings a lot of value to businesses,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we find things that they don't even imagine about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, thanks for shedding a little bit of light into what you do, because I think it's very relevant for today's topic, by the way, and because today we're going to be talking about hacking corporate minds. In other words, bringing the red team before the headlines do, right?
Yeah.
So cool. Let's start there.
All right.
Um, But okay, let's start from the beginning, Gok Phoenix. You have built a career thinking like like an attacker, right? To strengthen defenses. So, how did your first hack, quote unquote, your way into the security field, cybersecurity field?
Yeah, I was very interested in hacking, and of course, by hacking I mean like ethical hacking, not
Mm-hmm.
just doing hacking like illegally.
Mm-hmm.
So, like most of the people, I started studying in computer science and cybersecurity related topics. Having a web developer background helped me a lot because I know how software development works, how code works, or a system works. So I try to improve me on that part. But
Mm-hmm.
to be a great penetration tester, you need to be very well rounded because it's not only knowing technical things. You also need to have soft skills because you
Uh-huh.
can find very critical vulnerabilities. But if you can't explain what you find in a friendly way, no one will wanna work with you. So
Mm-hmm.
you should improve your soft skills as well as technical skills in this field. I think is very important. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, you can't also only focus on soft skills and just living around the technical part. That's
Mm-hmm.
helped me a lot because uh, you need to be able to explain risks to businesses, and not
Mm-hmm.
everyone is technical in the field. So you should be able to be a great communicator as a pen tester. Otherwise, you can't be a great pen tester. I think that's very important. And this is
Absolutely.
what we try to do at Blacktrace. So
Yeah.
once we do pen testing or red teaming, we always try to explain things in a very clear way, and
Mm-hmm.
we are making sure that everyone in the company understands. Every relevant person in the company understands the risks.
Gotcha. Yeah. When you say soft skills, I think it's actually one of the most important things. The way I see it, I'm not an engineer. I don't have an engineering background, but I understand the engineering world because I've been working at different capacities, in communication and marketing and such. But I'm not an engineer. However, I do recognize the value of soft skills, especially in a day and age in which things like ethics, for example, should be of the utmost importance, because you have very powerful tools out there, technical tools. And cybersecurity is no exception. AI, of course, there's it's also very powerful, and if in the wrong hands, well, you need to have a good understanding of what a soft skill is, including ethics, right?
Yeah.
So, in that context, so how would you say that soft skills have helped you prevent, if applicable, help you prevent like multi-million dollar breaches? Like, can you walk us through a moment when you had to convince, skeptical executives that their secure systems weren't so secure?
Yeah, I once had an experience where I had to do pen testing to a relatively small company, and they didn't have an internal IT department, so they were always taking the service externally. And they said that they had a specialist who built their entire infrastructure in the company, and they had Windows-based systems in the company, and so they requested me to do a pen test. When I did a pen test and I had some findings, especially in Active Directory, uh, for those who don't know, like Active Directory is one of the worst things that you can have in your company because you basically give very risky privileges to attacker.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did that and I showed the pen test results in a meeting, they didn't want to believe me. And they said, like, we have a specialist and the person who did that knows very well what he did. And you're just trying to sell us more work. So they
Mm-hmm.
didn't believe what I showed as a pen test result. And it was very unexpected because I never had such thing in my life. And
Uh-huh.
in that moment, well, I had to take things in a calm way. And the way I solved this, like, I offered them to doing the testing in front of them so they can see how it is. And well, I solved the problem. But yeah, there are cases where if you are not a great communicator, you can have a lot of findings, a lot of works, but it's just meaningless to some people if you are not able to explain things.
Mm-hmm.
It is similar to, I think I can give an example. Like, you also need to be a great team player because not always I'm doing like solo pen test because sometimes we are doing teamwork. We take different pen testers, different hackers. And well, it's like Tom Brady, if you like football, Tom Brady is very famous. He's coming from a background where he was not very top quality player. He was
Mm-hmm.
selected in the draft like 199 selection. He had like 188 players before him. And what made him very strong, very successful was that he was a team player and everyone wanted to play with him. And all of his successes comes from being a great team player. I think that's very important to be successful in a life.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I can understand the concepts that you're mentioning, but I think that also some of the viewers or many of the viewers out there would also enjoy having you tell us a little story, like a real like a real live example, right? That you have lived. For example, you and I had a conversation off the air, right? And in the conversation, you mentioned that there you had like a real world red team engagement, that experience that changed how a client saw their entire security posture and what they did about it. So do you want to share that story you were telling me about?
Yeah,
I think it's
sure.
a,
We have been,
let's call it the airport story.
all right. Yeah, we had a pen test. Well, it was actually red teaming
Uh-huh.
task in the airport. I will not share the name of the airport, but it was an international airport.
Uh-huh.
And we had all the required authorizations and permissions, so we were authorized to do the red teaming. And they also gave us a task apart than doing the red team task. It was just adding a text file in
Uh-huh.
the airport systems. So we could get into systems from the airport Wi-Fi, and we also used some physical accesses. Like, we had to get into areas where only authorized people could enter. And once we did that, well, we could connect to their Wi-Fi, and we lived not in a TXT file. It was just like a flag, but it could be a malware in the real life scenario. Um, so once we showed that, they were very nervous. They were in shock, and well, unfortunately, some people lost their jobs because of that.
Wow.
But it was very critical because it could affect the overall airport security, and it could also affect to the air traffic because we also had a team who worked in the airport security directly in the air traffic control tower. and they could also get into systems of the tower, which they could actually manipulate the air traffic from the computers.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a story, especially with the impact that it had. I wasn't aware that people had lost their jobs, right?
Yeah, because some of the cybersecurity issues can be life-threatening. It can, like human life is very important, and
Yeah.
if you in any kind of collision in air traffic could possibly cause some unexpected issues or crashes. So that's very critical, and in some areas you just don't give any chance to a failure.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So let's move on to something else. Well, again, we're the today's tagline is uh, bringing the red team before the headlines do. So a red team implies dichotomy, like it has a blue team or something that is opposite, right? So
Yeah.
um, how do you if you have a red team, but there's also a blue team in this industry? How do you hack the mindset of blue team defenders who might resist learning from red team attacks?
Yeah. Red team is basically offensive discipline in cybersecurity, and we are when we are doing red teaming, we are actually imitating a real world attack.
Uh huh.
So if we are in an engagement, we can just attack anywhere we find, and that is very valuable for companies because we are simulating a real world scenario compared to pen testing. Because in a pen testing, you can do specific pen test for specific service or system, but in the red teaming, you are more like free because you have a bigger scope. You are more you can do unexpected things. What I noticed in blue teamers, most of them, not everyone, but most of them are uh, very limited to playbooks, and they like not everyone, but some people think a hacker can attack only from predetermined places, and that's not true. A hacker can attack from anything they find. If I want to hack something, I just create a way to do that. If there's no way, I find a way to do that. So that's the hacker mindset. And I think that's very important because in most companies, blue teamers are very limited in the playbooks, and that's not a good practice in my opinion.
Excellent. Okay, great. Now, I'm curious about something very specific that I'm sure that some CEOs or CISOs would be interested in. If you could sit down with every CISO or CEO for 60 seconds, what hard truth would you tell them about their current security approach?
Well, that's a nice question. I think, well, they most of the people underestimate the power of pad test or red teaming because they think that is a luxury service or extra service that probably not necessary. But what I would say is that like we give a lot of value to companies because we show proof of concepts and their systems if they are working as intended to work. So I think that gives a lot of value. And I would say like just don't focus a lot on compliance because there are also other ways that you can have trouble in your upper management.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you hear that? CEOs, CISOs, take note. If you don't want to get into trouble. Okay, so this is a very interesting conversation. Even though that I'm kind of a newbie in all things cybersecurity, because like I said, I'm not an engineer. I don't have an engineering background, but as a user, I recognize and respect the need for cybersecurity measures, even at the user level. Even at when we're inputting information on our own home computer. So there's tremendous value in that, as even for us, the layman. But what about the senior leaderships? For example, I understand that you have empowered senior leaderships, professionals with actionable cyber risk understanding. Okay, so how do you translate technical findings into business language?
Well, in that case, I would definitely try to understand the business priorities and what they try to do, because every business is different,
Mm-hmm.
and every risk is different as well for every businesses. So that's very important. If you don't understand the business culture, if you don't understand how they operate or what are their priorities or what they do, you may have wrong choices as a cybersecurity professional. Doesn't matter if you're in the attacker perspective or if you're in the defensive side. So business, understanding the business, how they operate and their culture is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever I do, I would try to explain them according to their business operational system. Like depends on the companies.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and what's your framework for helping these executives make like smart security investment decisions when versus just buying the latest tools?
That happens a lot, especially in Mexico. Unfortunately, many businesses think buying a lot of tools means like you're safe. It's like you're just buying tools, but you're limited to the capabilities of the tools.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best way to use your budget or invest in specific tools is comes from the testing. You know, you should test. You should find out like where you fail, what do you need. You should also be working collaboratively with blue teamers, CISOs, and BISOs as well, and you should um make benchmark requests. You know, like you should have a guideline like what do you need for your business, and what
Mm-hmm.
do you want to achieve, and you can use that information when you decide to invest in securities, because it's not all about investing money. You can have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money, you can get hacked. You know, like there are tech giants are getting hacked and they have one of the biggest budgets. So it proves that having money or investing a lot of tools doesn't bring you secure environment. Most
Mm-hmm.
of the time companies are suffering from internal threats, human errors. So internal training is also very important. And internal training doesn't mean that you need to train engineers on it. You should do that as a company, right? You know, like everyone in the company should have the knowledge in cybersecurity and the cyber risks of every industry. So if you work in bank, you have financial risks. If you work in a health industry, you have uh, people's personal data at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So every business is different,
Okay.
and we are helping businesses to uh, take decisions easily because
Mm-hmm.
we try to show them where they fail more. And I think that brings a
Mm-hmm.
lot of value because just by investing in offensive security can be pen test, or I think red teaming brings more value than pen testing. Um, you can just save money because you can have like I once found around 300 either vulnerabilities in a Ruby code base, and it was in production for 3 years. And the company had a lot of tools. They didn't detect that. So I found that finding, and we had to work cross team with three
Mm-hmm.
different countries in order to fix that. But it was a very bad vulnerability, and it's a proof that the tools doesn't always find the risks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And there's also something that I was thinking is that so far we have been talking about let's call it the tech component of cybersecurity, the business decisions about cybersecurity. But there's also an element that I think it's equally even if not more important also than just the tech itself. It's the human element, the engineers behind it, the people who actually sit down at the computers and make miracles happen. So like my question for you is, when advising leadership on cybersecurity talent strategy, how to assemble teams, What is your biggest recommendation for these companies?
All right. I think they should also understand that hacking is not only happening in the computers. So if I
Mm-hmm.
want to hack someone and I did that in an assignment as a work, uh, you can just follow fingerprints of people. Like there are people who overly post things on the internet. There are people who talk about their problems they have in the company or their managers. There are some engineers or developers, they always complain about business decisions like API integration, or they had some issues because they had an API key and they didn't know where to put and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And from an attacker perspective, I can gather all of that information and create an attack map and just use that against the company. So I think
Mm-hmm.
human element is very important, and businesses, not only businesses, but also people who work in this industry should also
Mm-hmm.
accept the risks, and they shouldn't be. I mean, they should be very careful about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Gotcha.
it's an everyday thing. It's not just only when you get a pen test, or
Mm-hmm.
it's not only that companies are investing in a defense and some tools, and that's the security. It's not that. So you
Mm-hmm.
can get hacked in every part, just basically, you know, uh,
Yeah. 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 Hey, listen. I mean, I'm getting carried away because this is. They say that time flies when you're having a good time, and this conversation is no exception. But unfortunately, we're approaching the final segment of today's conversation. But I still have one more question for you, and if I recall correctly, you led or you put out a phishing campaigns that revealed like security awareness gaps. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What was the what did you learn? How did you change human behavior at scale?
well, we can't control what humans do unless they decide to change things. Uh, but we do phishing campaigns just like similar to red teaming. It's a
Mm-hmm.
process. It can take a long time or short time, depends on what the company needs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see is that how the company treat to its employees is very important, because if you're a bad employer and if you make people hate to work in your company,
Mm-hmm.
they're less careful. They just don't care.
Okay.
Like you can have a lot of policies, but if you're a bad company, you can't make people to follow your guidelines. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that is very important, and most of the phishing or human errors. I think there's a statistic that where the more the toxic the company is, the less careful the people are. I think that's one of the issues the companies should solve.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you love to work in your company, if you like your job, you try to be more careful. But if you don't get paid, or let's say you have some issues with your manager, you care less. This is the basic human behavior, and I
Right.
think
Right.
that's very important in a company environment. So we
Absolutely.
can't control that, but we can do a lot of things as business owners and just make people like you and your business. That's very
Mm-hmm.
important.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So, Phoenix, uh, unfortunately, we have run out of time today. So, well, first of all, folks, if you're watching, I am going to be displaying Phoenix's contact info right at the bottom. You'll see a scrolling banner at the bottom. So, we're going to start with, of course, his website. You will see his website, his LinkedIn, his email. So, your pen and a paper or a pencil, make a notes, and make sure you reach out to Phoenix in the following URLs and emails. So while we run this information, Phoenix, um, please can you share some final words of wisdom with the audience? Anything that you feel that the audience should remember you by? What are your final words of wisdom for today's show?
I think cybersecurity is a whole, so people should think about security as a whole. So if they are investing or they are working with security teams, they should also consider the offensive part of that. And we also help businesses to um, get the defenses as well as offensive part. We are not looking at the defensive part, but we work with people like Peter, for example, and we can help businesses
Brilliant.
to spend less money and get the best value because we are not one of those cybersecurity businesses where we just make automated scans and hand them to people like calling that as a pen test. We are trying to bring the most value in our jobs, and I think the best value is coming from understanding the business and the expectations.
Mhm. Got it. Understanding the business and the expectations. There
Yeah.
you have it, folks. That's a great quote that I'm going to make sure it gets out there. So, well, Phoenix, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the show today, and I look forward to more conversations. We're going to make sure that we get this episode into the community out there that you and I belong to. So. Um, it was a great discussion on cybersecurity. And the only thing left for me is thank you big time for having been with us on the show. Before we go, let me just mention something really quick. If you're watching, this is for the viewers out there. If you're watching, please bookmark the link below, advancio.com/tech talks. That's where you will find not only past interviews for the last 4 years, but also upcoming ones. Okay, so just keep an eye on that, bookmark it, and reach out if you want to contact us. It's right there on that page, advancio.com. If you want to be on the show, also reach out to either Advancio or yours truly, and we'll make it happen. So, that being said, again, thank you so much, Phoenix, and the rest of you guys. See you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
See you.
See you. Bye.